Hello and welcome to the Now Educated podcast. Today I'm spotting my glasses because, man, did I read something remarkable, and I really want to share these insights from a book we came across by a Dr. Ed Noyes called Communication, Sex and Money. So don't worry, I'm not here to talk to you about sex or communication, but I'm definitely here to talk to you about money. And specifically, 10 remarkable guidelines on investing that Dr. Cole shares in his book. And I think that all of us need to begin to put on our checklist and as part of our guidelines when it comes to investing. Remember, we're in this conversation where we really wanted to make sure that we beat this thing called inflation, but most importantly, we build healthy relationships with money and get as many of us to a point where we are in good financial health. So you ready? There are 10 of them, and I need you to pay attention to all of them. Let's get it. All right, so the first principle, and I found this principle so relevant and something that we often overlook. And the first principle you want to be mindful of when you looking at investing or you've already invested is understand that number one, you invest in people. We invest in people. We don't invest in companies. We don't invest in pieces of land. We invest in people. You see, when you're looking at investments, it's very easy for you to say, look, who else is investing in that thing? Oh, look at that piece of land. But if the people do not have the integrity, they'll sell you a piece of land on fake title deeds. If they manage to convince smart investors to come in, or they get someone, to come on, but they have nothing at all. How many scams have you read about where you'd be like, oh man, my brother was in there and I thought my brother knew what he was talking about. But your brother probably invested in it because he'd seen someone he known or someone that they thought really knew what was going on. And just like that, con artists are always in the art of using people to influence people. So let's get back. Understand that in every business, you're investing in its people. A business is only as good as the people who are managing it or controlling it. So when you look at a business and you're thinking about investing in it, understand that a good indicator is the character of the people behind the business. So if the CEO, chairman, the board, or the management team are people of bad character, chances are high that that business is not going to go too far. It's going to make some, crucial mistakes somewhere down the line that could cause your investment to go to zero. So always look at the person leading the business, because the character of that individual is going to be very important to the success of the organization. I think you've heard in HR practice where they say people don't leave companies, they leave bad managers or bad leaders. So it's always about the people. So if you're looking at investing, understand you are always investing in people. So you would best start knowing what kind of people run or own the assets that you're hoping to invest in. Secondly, before investing, investigate. Before investing, investigate. You see, simple people always believe what they're told. Prudent people always take the time to understand what they're getting into, who they're getting into business with, and whether or not the risks that they are facing are worth it. So you best understand that investigate. It's not being rude to ask questions. It's not rude to have concerns. And a critical aspect around this particular guideline is understanding that everything in this life, on this world, has a season. And the season for that thing never changes. And it's our responsibility not to try and change the seasons, but it's our responsibility to understand what's going on in that season. So always take the time to investigate, and a good marker to let you know that your investigation has borne fruit and is telling you yes is the peace. Whenever you have peace of mind and heart in what you're planning on investing in, that's always a good sign that you're doing the right thing. So let peace be your empire, and you'll find most of the times you're likely to invest in a way that's going to do you well. The third guideline is risk, don't gamble. Everything in this world has a risk attached to it. Everything. but that doesn't mean you must gamble. And what does gambling mean? Is gambling is when we are risking on a chance. Where, for example, if you play numbers, there's no principle that says these numbers are likely to happen. It's on the off chance that it happens. You see, you have to go back to what I just said, that everything in life has a season, and that season doesn't change. So when you are risking on a business, you have to understand, is the business in the right season for it to prosper? That way, if I am clear on the season that the business is in, if I'm clear on the season my life is in, I may most likely be able to invest in things that are going to bear fruit for me. You see, our job is to begin to build that capacity within us to identify patterns, to identify and recognize seasons. Because the moment we begin to identify and be able to recognize the seasons, we can produce some consistency or forget it, that word's too hard for me to say. We can begin to produce some consistency in the decisions we make, because we understand that there is a pattern that it will follow. And that begins to create a situation where we can invest in ways that go with the season and likely will produce the positive return that we are seeking. So remember, risk, don't gamble. Appreciate the seasons, recognize them, and begin to discipline yourself to not do things that are out of season. And the fourth guideline is, and this one is where I've sometimes made the mistake and felt the pain. If you're going to be investing, if you're going to be doing anything that involves your money, your time, your talents, make sure that agreement is in writing. You see, a lot of our friendships, or a lot of the friends we used to have that have become enemies, is because of misunderstandings. And those misunderstandings are not necessarily because you are a bad person or they were a bad person. It could just be simply a case of you had a conversation, you agreed on something, and maybe bad memory or forgetfulness caused you to get the details blurred. And because of that, you fought over that aspect. Now, what I want to challenge us to begin to adopt or put into our life is the notion that if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Especially if you're going to be investing. Make sure that everything is reduced to paper and signed. Right? Even if it's for the most simplest of things, if it's we are meeting, if it's an agreement that you'll give someone money, man, technology has evolved so much that we've got platforms like WhatsApp, those instant messaging platforms where you can literally write down, I have given Terrence $10 to come and give you. I gave him at this particular time. That is going to save you a whole lot of conversations when your friend forgets that you've already paid them. You just go back to where it's in writing, and hopefully in that writing they'll have confirmed, oh, thank you, yes, I've received it. Let's learn to put things in writing. We want to do things and invest our lives and money and talent in a way that reduces the chances of any misunderstanding happening. So, let's go to number 5. Don't live with debt. Now, if you've gone through a period where you've invested of yourself, your time, and it hasn't gone according to plan, it could have been a bad relationship, it could have been a business deal that went sideways, or if you're in Zimbabwe, it could have been living in 2008 and watched your life savings disappear, or 2019 when they changed the currency and inflation showed its ugly face again. Any of those situations, if you lost money or if you suffered a loss, and if you let that loss, and if you're still living with that loss or that failure, and tell yourself, no, I can't invest again because I failed or I lost money before, what you're doing is you are living with debt. And what you need to do is bury it. It's time to bury it. You cannot live your life on the back of your past failures. It doesn't do you any good. It serves only to make sure that you perpetuate and continuously guarantee failure in your life and in your investments. What we must begin to do is learn to live. And bury those past failures. You want to bury the past failures, not the talents you still have. Because I believe each and every one of us, for as long as we're not dead, we're not done, and there's work to be done. And there's still hope for you to get something out of what your life has given you. So what you want to do is admit your losses, get into the habit of admitting your losses, learning from them, and then moving to something better. Don't live with debt. The sixth guideline is invest in producers. There's this notion and this statement that I came across that is so true and so relevant. And it says the man who does the least often does the most talking. You see, doers do not have time to waste talking or covering up their deeds in conversation. So this is how you want to go about your investing. You want to invest your time with men or women who inspire. You want to invest your money with men who produce. And you want to invest your talent with men and women who create. Spend time finding out and identifying producers. And an easy way to do that is learn not to trust people or judge people based on what they say. Always look at what they do. Producers do. Jokers paint beautiful stories. The seventh guideline, let me make you progress, is shadows are fiercer than reality. Shadows are fiercer than reality. I don't know if you've noticed, our shadows are always bigger than ourselves. And in life, what are some of those shadows that can become very fierce is when we focus a lot on what others are thinking or what we think others could say. Many a business deal goes pear-shaped, or we lose out on what we could have gotten because we're so afraid of asking certain questions for fear of confrontation. But you find that it's not being confrontational to ask questions about something that could potentially cause you to lose your entire life savings. Something confrontational. That's the definition of wisdom. You see, what I've found is one of the big and realized when reading Ed's book is that guilt casts the biggest shadow. And how do we end up in situations where guilt is the dominant shadow caster? Let me give you an example. If someone borrows money from you, in a way, that loan is an investment in them. And when that investment in them remains unpaid for a season, what tends to happen is whenever you see that person, the first thing that comes to your mind is the money that they haven't paid you back. And over time, that casts a shadow on your relationship. It strains it because you find yourself consistently thinking about it, and in a way, you assume the guilt that the person who hasn't paid you has. So that person who hasn't paid you is guilty of not paying you. But because you're the one who's constantly thinking about it, you almost take that person's guilt and begin to live with that person's guilt within you. And one aspect about investing and investing wisely is being able to understand and be able to discern the season you're in. There's no point in holding on to something that you've already lost. Sometimes you looked at the person and thought they were a producer, and then, as time goes on, it becomes clearer and clearer that this person is not a producer. They have no interest in paying you back. You do yourself a whole world of good by not holding on to that debt, holding on to that investment, and getting to a point where you can release that investment from you, and sometimes do the difficult thing, which is forgive them of what they owe. Because truth be told, it's doing you more harm than any good. And I think some Zimbabweans need to release our government for 2008 and 2019, because I tell you, it's not helping us move forward. So we may just have to release them and rebuild. More can be done. I think I just had a moment there. Let's go to the eighth thing on our checklist. More upbeat. And this is Funds come from friends. Funds come from friends. I love that so much, I had to repeat it. So, what does that tell us? It tells us that if you're in business, you're better off being more concerned with making friends than clients. What does that mean? Repeat business tends to come from people who feel friendly, or who feel or believe that you are friendly towards them. Because being friendly towards people tends to make people feel like you genuinely care about them. And like we shared a few episodes ago, some ancient Jewish wisdom lets us know that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And that's what friendship is about. Knowing people, liking them, trusting them. And the more we do it, you'll begin to see that an investment in friends, in making friends, will pay the greatest dividends. And I came across this really cool statement that Ed shared. And he says, lack of friends leads to lack of funds. And lack of funds can part even the best of friends. So what should we be focusing on? If you're in business, if you're looking at investing in a business, if you're in business, do this. Make friends of your customers and your clients by serving them effectively. This is how we make friends. You have to add value to your customers and clients' lives. And that will ensure that you never lack for funds. And if you're looking at investing in a business, ask yourself, does this business in its operation show that it cares for its customers in the way it serves them? What kind of customer experience do their customers have? And the better the customer experience, the better the customer service, the better the investment that company or business presents to you. The ninth thing on the checklist is invest your life for your greatest good. Isn't it interesting that any investment we make involves an investment of yourself and your life? When you invest of our time, you're investing of your life. When you invest of your talent, you're investing your life. When you invest your money, you're also investing your life. You see, when we go out and give of our lives to our work, what tends to happen most of the time is that you get money in return for that, as a thank you, as a certificate of appreciation, so to speak. Now, what you do with your money reveals to many of us what you do with your life. You see, your money, interestingly, represents your life. So wherever you invest your money also tells us about where you invest your life. Now, an important aspect about investing of yourself and investing of your money and your life is the notion and the principle and the practicality of this thought that the more you give of yourself, the more you will have to give. The more you give of yourself, the more you'll have to give. And our lives really are found in our giving. Our breakthroughs are found in our giving. Our next major milestone, the next business idea that takes us to the moon is found in our giving. The next positive return on your investment is only going to come from you giving of your money, your time, or your talent. So the more we give, the more we are likely to get. And if you want to spend your time, your talent, and your treasure doing stuff that will edify or create the greatest return on your investment, you want to start to invest in things that you know are good, that you know are right, and fall within your sphere of understanding. So invest in things that you know are good, are right, and play within your sphere of understanding, or things that you are able to invest time towards understanding. Because when you give to those things, the return is something that you genuinely will appreciate. But be mindful. I think this is one of the most important things on this checklist for me, is that it's in your giving. It's in your giving. Not your giving. It's in your giving. Isn't that ironic? That many people hold on to things, are fearful of losing things, and the more they allow that fear to rule and reign their lives, the less they have. But the more love they express, the more they give, the more they get. And interestingly, isn't it, even in the workspace, the more you give, the more assignments the organization knows they can trust you with, the greater capacity you get to build in training, education, in being able to understand how people work. And the more likely you are to know the truth of every situation. So get to giving. That's where the money is at. That's where the growth is at. And ultimately, that's where the progress is found. And the last thing on my checklist, simple, 2 words. I think it's 2 words. Don't quit. Never, ever allow yourself to throw in the towel. You see, all of us have the capacity and the ability to transform our lives. Where we are today has very little bearing on where we'll be tomorrow. You see, you are not born into something. As humans, you can recreate yourself. You can make the decision today that even though I failed on a couple of things, today is a different day. And the decisions you make today and act upon them can transform your entire existence. So if you're not dead, you're not done. And it's not time to quit. You may fail. Learn from your failures and move on to bigger and better things. Don't quit. And that's our checklist. 10 guidelines to investing by Ed Lewis Cole. And I think you'd be best served adding those 10 to your 10, or whatever list you have. And if you didn't have any, you're welcome. We did this specifically for you. And as we always sign off, when you know better, you do better. In our community, when we know better, we help others know better. And collectively, we do better. Because we believe with all our hearts that when we know better, we do better. And things collectively will get better. Until next week. Thank you so much for watching this and all the clips that we've been putting out there. We love the comments, we love the reactions, and we want to encourage you to do even more. Kindly go out, share this with your friends, share this with someone at work, share it with anyone you know will benefit from this. And most importantly, tell us what you want us to share with you in terms of stuff you want us to talk about or questions you'd like us to answer for you. Remember, the aim of this podcast is to help as many of us build better relationships with money. And we can only do that if we get this to as many people as possible. If you're as honest and as transparent as you can be, so that we answer the stuff that will move your world and help our world become a better place. Remember, our community is all about getting to know better. And when you know better, we do better. But we want to go an extra step. We want to know better, help others know better. Because collectively, when we know better, we tend to do better. And like we always close, the world will get better. So thank you so much for watching this, and we hope that we can get more and more people to watch this, and we can build a community that ends up winners when it comes to this area of finances.